rather. Thank you, Heather. All right, so we're here to talk about local service ads. I'm really excited about that. Before we can talk about local service ads, you guys probably need to know a little bit about us. I will not bore you with all of these details, and I will go quick through this part because we have to go through this part. But let me introduce myself. My name is Katie Donovan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Camp Digital. I personally am Google certified, Bing certified, Yelp, Amazon, SEO certified. I'm a Google product expert. There is a program actually anybody can enroll in and earn your way up to Google product expert. My highest ranking happens to be around Google business profiles. So GBPs or formerly Google My Businesses. So I'm a Google product expert in that. Patent holder, business owner, entrepreneur. I like to talk about Camp more than I like to talk about myself because I'm very, very proud of it. At Camp, we are a Google Premier partner. There's only about 450 Google Premier partners in the United States. That might sound like a lot, but I think when I last looked in the US and Canada, there were 22,000 registered partners with Google. So we're a pretty elite bunch. I think it comes down to about 3% of their registered agencies are Google Premier partners, and that doesn't include other agencies that haven't registered with Google. So pretty premier. To get there, we have to do a lot of things with Google. We're on the Inc. 5000, fastest growing private companies in the state of Minnesota. Last year, we were number 6. The year before, we were number 7 as fastest growing companies in Minnesota. Darwin Awards, .com Awards, Stevie's, Ava, all kinds of fun stuff. And then right now, we're managing about $125 million this year in Google Ads. And in my career, I won't tell you how old I am, how long I've been doing this, but this might give it away. In my career, I've managed over $1 billion in ad spend. So pretty excited about that. Hit that mark in February of last year. Not that anyone's counting, but I was counting. So why do we feel like we can talk about local service ads? Well, as Camp Digital, we've managed over 65 million in local service ad spend. So quite a bit of local service ads spend. In addition, we have a dedicated Google support team for local service ads. Most agencies have a dedicated support team for ads. We have a dedicated support team for local service ads as well. So we have a weekly call with the LSA team. They're out of Toronto. That helps us with upcoming pilots, tickets, any issues we see coming up, any of those fun things. We also have a monthly meeting with the product leadership at local service ads. So that gives us insights into things that are coming, as well as chances to help improve the product or suggest things for the product. For example, different categories as they break out, different resources. Excuse me, super rude, my apologies. It's a really fun meeting. I actually really enjoy it. We can bring up to them changes in the market that are coming that they may not have thought about in the product, all kinds of fun things. So it's a great meeting. I really, truly enjoy it. But what I like to do is empower everybody with your own resources. For anybody who doesn't know, and looking at most of the people that are on this call, you guys might already know this, but if you don't, it is the greatest resource in the world. You can actually go to support.google.com, and that's what you're going to see on the right. And Google has support knowledge-based resources for every single one of their products, the support.google.com. So you go to support.google.com, and if you want to talk about local service ads, I'm going to play this. You go to support.google.com. You're going to scroll down past their core products in that little arrow. Look how many products Google has. It's nuts. Scroll past the consumer products all the way down to the business products. And there's a whole knowledge base just for local service ads right there. If you click on that, it opens up all of this massive knowledge base for local service ads. They put announcements in there. They put question and answers in there. They put like, hey, you're curious how to, is there a category for such and such yet? You can type that in. It will tell you. I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend bookmarking the support.google.com, not just for local service ads, but also for ads, GBP, any Google product. I mean, it could also be hardware. They have one for Nest, for example, or whatever their Google version is. So highly, highly, highly recommend that support.google.com. I look at it on a regular basis, and a lot of times they put information in there they don't even necessarily publicize. Somebody from their product team just pops it into their knowledge base, and it gives you really good insights. So highly recommend that. Little history about local service ads for anyone who doesn't know it, assuming I can make this move. So local service ads is still considered a fairly new product by Google standards. It's less than 10 years old. It launched in 2015, but it only launched outside of California at the end of 2017. So for the first 2 years, they were piloting in the state of California. And after that, it was at the end of 2018, it was only available to about 75% of the United States. So there was not huge coverage yet. It was 90 metros, so it did get most of the United States, and that was 75% the coverage. But if you think about that in terms of Google, in terms of marketing products, it's still a fairly new product. That is why it is changing so much. I see a lot of things with people thinking Google's doing some conspiracy theories, whatever. It's not. It's a relatively new product. Since I've been working with it, it changed locations inside Google. It was kind of farmed out to this little building on the side. It was kind of funny. It is now fully enrolling into Google and into the Google program. But it keeps changing, it keeps evolving because it's relatively new. Now, as it sits today, it's in 11 countries with over 100 categories. Something to think about, and the reason I bring that up is it's new, is a lot of people on this call have multi-trades. You constantly want to be going back if you're not working with camp or you're not working with an agency, looking at, go to that support.google.com/local service as and look for new categories they're rolling out. For example, they are now just rolling out drain expert. So you had plumbing before at Flush Kings. If you're doing drains as well, you might want to go in there and add that. It's not available in every state yet. I've asked them for a rollout schedule and they haven't been able to provide one yet. But you're going to want to make sure you're checking on that yourself, just to make sure you're looking at the regular basis to see what other categories are coming out. They launched solar about a couple months ago. They launched painting. They launched, quite a few. So make sure you're looking through those categories pretty regularly to see that, make sure you're not missing anything. Oops, that was that one. So not only are they adding more services, more service areas, most of us in the United States and Canada are covered pretty clearly now at this point, but also when they roll those services out, they roll them out quite often regionally. So Drain Expert, the one I was just telling you guys about, it's available in California and Florida. You can add it for most areas now, but you can't add the licensing yet. So it won't go live on your account. But if you want to get proactive and get in there, you can do it. And that's the reason why it doesn't just roll out to everybody. Hey, they launched Drain Expert. It's a different license in every single state, sometimes in every city, sometimes in every county. And so it takes them time to gather all that licensing information. And that's why they roll these out generally by service area or by location. But again, support.google.com/local services. If you ever need it, it's all going to be there. So why do we get to talk about local service ads? Why am I going to show you guys why we think that what we go through actually works? So we asked a couple of our clients who we've worked with in the past, both these were not clients when we worked with them, and said, hey, we went in and optimized your LSA. These people did exactly what I'm going to show you. I'm actually going to probably, I'll play both of these. They're only 2 minutes long. But we went in with these and did exactly what I'm going to show you guys. And we got results from it. So I'm going to play the results so you guys can hear it. This first one feels a little bit like a commercial, Heather. So I might just skip to Trust Point and play Trust Points here.
Hey, everybody. My name is Rich DeGilio. I'm the owner of Trust Point Electric here in Phoenix, Arizona. We started back in November. I first met Katie and Mike at Home Service Freedom event in Florida. Was just getting started. We ended up starting out with 2 trucks. It was probably around February. And we had some work, work started slowing down a little bit from January. We were getting a little nervous. And I remember talking to my coach and I called him in a frantic tizzy, probably must have been around the beginning of February, saying, look, I got 2 trucks. I got no work. What should I do? He said, well, what are you doing for marketing? And I said, well, I'm using LSA. It's not, it's not doing well. And I got a $3,000 budget and I'm not getting any kind of return on it. Is there anybody I could talk to and help? And literally, he picked up the phone right then and there while we were in the meeting on screen, and he called Katie. And he said to Katie, hey, you got a couple minutes to talk? I got somebody here who needs some help. Katie jumped on a call 30 seconds later. We talked through LSA and what it really was and kind of how we could be, even though we're putting money into it, it could still not be performing for certain reasons. She offered to take a look at it, no charge, and see what she can do. Literally gave her my sign-in, credentials. She signed in, and literally we went from getting, I think it was 3 calls a month to 4 calls a month with a $4,000 budget per month and not using the money, just it sitting there. We went to 15 calls in our first, I think, 3 days, and then it just started to ramp up from there. So now, now we've extended our budget. We've gotten many more calls. And it's all because somebody like Katie would take the time to kind of educate us a little bit. And now we're part of camp, and we're happy to be here. Thank you so much.
So I'm going to show you exactly what we showed him so you guys can see. And if you have an LSA account handy and you want to pull it up, please feel free. We're also going to make a lot of this available after the presentation as well. But there's no, everyone thinks that LSA is kind of set and forget. It's not. There is work to do in your LSA. It is a constantly changing product, and there's things that you can do to help improve it. And I hear his story all the time. I follow a lot of Facebook groups, and all the time I hear people saying stuff like, hey, I haven't had LSA and it's set to 5,000. It doesn't spend anything. It doesn't work for me because I'm a small guy or a single trade or whatever. You can really make it work. And I'm going to actually take you guys through that now. So let's get into it. So what is LSA? You guys are all probably aware of this, but LSAs are location specific ads that appear at the top of Google search engine results page. I work pretty closely with the gal that runs local service ads, and I met her husband, and I described her to him as the #1 real estate agent in the world because she has the real estate at the top of Google. It is not, New York. It is not Toronto. It is not Hong Kong or any of those locations. I think, the #1 real estate in the world is LSAs. They're often referred to as the Google guarantee ads, and they're because in the trades, you get a Google guarantee. Side note, I just want to tell everyone really quickly because this is really important to know. The Google guarantee in the United States for the trades is $2,000. So if a customer goes through Google, has your service, isn't satisfied with that service, and they call Google, and in my career in over 65 million, I don't think I've ever had this happen, by the way, but they call Google and say, hey, I'm not satisfied. They reach out for the Google guarantee. Google will call you. They will suspend your account. They will call you and they will ask you to make good with that customer. If after a certain amount of attempts you don't make good, they will give the customer $2,000 and then they will forever suspend your account. The reason I like to tell people that is bear that in mind if it ever does happen to you, that it's not necessarily, if you did a panel upgrade and an HVAC system, you're not going to be potentially out, $24,000. It's the $2,000 Google guarantee. In other trades, you'll see it, or in other services, it's not called the Google guarantee because they're not guaranteeing anything. It's called Google certified, and you'll just see a check mark next to it. So how they work, it's some of the best lowest funnel keywords, and that's why it's so important to be on Google local service ads. For example, garage service near me, garage door service near me, plumbing repair near me, water heater service company near me. Any of those really low funnel keywords where we know there's going to be a conversion pretty quickly. And a customer can then choose to click to call, text message, book online. There's a few features I'm going to show you that they're testing right now to make that even broader, all kinds of different things. The more of those you have turned on, the better. By the way, we'll go through that here in a second. And then essentially it sits throughout the page. So it presents at the top of the page, and then it presents on continuous scroll. So last year, about a year and a half ago, Google moved to continuous scroll from pages. And because of that, it doesn't just show at the top of the page, it also shows throughout the page. And if you look now on mobile, really almost all you get is LSA, right? I don't know if you guys can see my screen or not, but it's 2 LSAs at the top and then 1 search before I have to make a scroll. In the trades, most consumers are making their first conversion action within 20 minutes of identifying the problem, and they're deciding where to click within 3 seconds of the search result coming up. 1, 2, 3. That's generally how long it takes someone to pick where they're going to click next. So you can imagine local service ads are so important because they're low funnel keywords, they're the top of the page, and they're generally going to get the click from the consumer. So how to optimize it? I'm going to set this up side by side here with an account so you guys can, so we're actually going to do it live here. I called one of our accounts beforehand so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So the first thing you're going to want to pay attention to is your responsive rate. I cannot stress this enough. To me, and from what I have seen, looking at all of our accounts, Google will tell you there's 3 things: responsive rate, radius, where you're targeting, and your reviews. Out of those, I have found responsive rate has the most immediate impact. Last time I asked, the responsive rate's calculated on a rolling 90. So if you had a bad month or you had a bad time or you had a CSR you just got rid of, know that you can dig yourself out of that hole, but it's a rolling 90. And what does that mean? Because everybody I talk to says, oh, Katie, I have 100% responsive rate. By the way, this is Richard's account. This is TrustPoint. This was the 3 calls he said he had before. Then he had 16. I want to show you guys where he's at now, assuming Google's going to cooperate here. It's getting a little squirrely today. Look at where he's at. I mean, and by the way, he's a small shop, 91 friggin' reviews. And a lot of that has to do with his responsive rate. Let's go back here so you guys can see it. So what a responsive rate simply is how many calls to connected calls and how many messages did you respond to, right? Or different integrations. Everybody I talk to says, well, Katie, I answer 100% of my calls. That's actually not what Google's looking for. The only guidance they would give us is the term meaningful interaction. They are looking for a meaningful interaction. If you have an after hours call center that says, hi, thanks so much for calling my shop. How can I help you? Yep, let me get your name, your phone number, your address. I don't know that Google's counting that as a meaningful interaction. If you have an IVR, of course, Google did that to me. If you have an integrated voice response system, oh, we're going to go back here. Let me pull it over here. You have an integrated voice response system that's doing like automatic responses, for instance. It's not counting that either. And it knows you're not going to be at 100%. It knows customers hang it up. It knows customers dial back. It knows customers call and ask if your refrigerator is running. And if so, you better catch it. It knows there's a lot of that. So it never actually expects you to be at 100%. It does, however, want you to be as high as you can. Generally, they're looking at 80, high 80s. In competitive markets, I always tell people if you can get to that low 90s, that's gold. That responsive rate is one of the number one things Google's looking for. Again, I don't know that most folks can see it. I think you have to have an MCC view or an agency view. So if you're part of a PE group, you probably have this view already. If you're a small company, just you're alone, you might need to call someone to be able to see it, but it's super, super important. And it's simply looking at how many, I think I grabbed the wrong count here, but how many calls versus answered. Any questions on that? Yeah, I did grab the wrong count, so I'll go off that one. So that's the first thing that Google's looking for. The second thing is going to be your bids and budgets. So let's get into that. When Google says, I don't know if you guys know what the golden rule is. It's not treat others how you'd like to be treated. In my mind, the golden rule is he who has the gold makes the rules. And in this case, it's Google's goal and it's Google's rules. So when Google recommends something, they always go with it. They don't generally recommend something just because. Google's pretty smart. They know what they're doing. So I almost always go with what they recommend. Here, they recommend automatic bidding. I know if you ask 10 experts, you're going to get 11 answers and 12 are going to probably be right. Some people will tell you, oh, make it $100, make it this. In my experience, Google knows what Google wants. I just set it to the automated bidding to maximize leads. I always set the average weekly budget. So the budget's done weekly. It's divided out by daily, unlike ads where you set like a monthly target monthly budget and it looks at daily. This is a weekly budget. And the guidance that LSA has given us on their weekly budget is to make sure that that's a realistic budget. So you want to make sure that that budget is realistic. $5,000 might seem like a lot for Amazing Air down in San Antonio, but it is realistic for that market. Do not set it for $1 million. They came straight out about 6 months ago and said, stop doing that. We're gonna ignore anything that's unrealistic. So even if you put in there $45,000 and you're in a smaller market, it's not going to be accurate. You're going to want to make it realistic for your market. And 9 times out of 10, it never spends the entire amount. If it does, awesome. I don't think we're going to complain if you're getting that many LSA leads, turn all your other advertising off. But most of the time it doesn't. So we try and set it aggressive, but realistic. I do this. I do not know if this is, I always like to tell people what I know and what I think, right? What I know is that you cannot put a budget in for $1 million. It doesn't want to see that. What I think, and this is just knowing how the system was built, I love ending it with an odd number. Maybe I'm just a little superstitious, but knowing the platform this was built on and how their old ranking and auction used to work, I'm a big fan of adding with odd number. Doesn't hurt. You can try it yourself. So make sure your bids and budgets are set properly. Next is your locations. Now, this used to say limit to a 2-hour drive, but this recommendation has changed. I just talked to the product head for agency, name's Boda, a week and a half ago about this. And she had said, Google understands for LSA now that your service areas might be very large, right? It used to be a 2-hour drive, but they understand they might be very large. They do recommend You can make it now as big as you want, as long as you have licensure cover. So where that becomes a little bit of a challenge for some people is if you're in a market that has licensures that are different by county, or you're on a border of a state, you only have a license in one state, but you can make those large now. The reason I like to recommend making those as large as you're comfortable with is because Google only knows exactly where you are about 60% of the time. 40% of the time, they have a pretty good sense of it. The higher up you go, the more likely they are to be accurate, right? So they know I am sitting in the United States with 100% accuracy or as close to that as possible. They know that I am in Hennepin County, for example, in Minnesota. They know I'm in Minnesota with 95% accuracy, Hennepin County with 80% accuracy. They know I'm in Edina with about 60% accuracy, primarily for me, because I don't know if you guys can see this highway behind me, but the other side of that highway is a different city. There's another highway over here, and the other side of that highway is another city. So it gets it about 60% of the time. So what in Google, like me, because I'm a married woman, likes to be right all the time. So it'll go to whoever it thinks it's most likely to be right for. So the more area you allow it to take in, the more it knows it'll be right. And so when it doesn't know about 40% of the time, it's going to give it to the person it thinks it's going to be the most correct with. So all three of these cities are in Hennepin County. If I add Hennepin County, it's more likely to rank me higher than somebody who had Edina because it didn't know necessarily I was in Edina every time. Does that make sense? Awesome. By the way, guys, if you have questions, jump in at any time, or if you're seeing something that doesn't line up in your account, just jump in. Yep.
Katie, can I ask you a question? When entering the locations, what is the best practice to do that?
I asked Google that specifically, and she said they do not have a recommendation of counties versus cities. The difference, though, is counties are going to cover all of the little holes that you can't cover with cities. So sometimes cities sit close to each other, but they don't fill in the gap, whereas the county sits over that. But not every one of us services entire counties. So I recommend going the county and then city to fill in behind that.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Lead types. Recently, Google introduced additional lead types. You're going to see here when we get into our like hot takes here of stuff that's coming up hot off the presses, that they're actually introducing more lead types. The more lead types you can turn on, the better. Google did acknowledge those in writing, which they rarely do, as ranking factors. So strongly recommend adding as many. Oh, someone asked about zip codes or counties better for locations. Counties are better. You'll see if you add counties and zip codes, Corey, that what will happen is they'll gray out the zip codes, and that's because they're preferring the county. So you don't have to believe me on that one. Add them both in, look at your account. When you come back to the account, a lot of times all those zip codes will be grayed out if they're covered by the county. And that gray is, you can leave them there, it doesn't hurt. But the gray is merely saying, hey, listen, you've already got it covered with another location setting. Hopefully that answered your question, Corey. Awesome. The more lead types you can turn on, the better. What I mean by this is text message. Let me just show you my friend here, Roy. So he's got them all turned on. He's got his phone calls, his emails, his text messages, and he's got on his scheduling. Highly recommend. The more of those you can turn on, the better. The only one that really isn't necessarily acknowledged as a ranking factor is scheduling. And the reason I think they did that is out of fairness, because not everybody has a tool that works within their scheduling tool. But they have come out and said that text messaging in writing, so you can find it yourself, but text messaging and email are ranking factors. Please, please, please turn those on. I promise you're not going to get a ton of them. I think for his account, we'll look at it here in a second. I think he has two text messages and one email message out of, I think, 39 leads he had when I last looked. So 10%, less than 10%. You do not get a ton of those. You do want to make sure you respond to those, but highly, highly recommend because they are recognized as ranking factors. Any questions on that? All right, more to it. Account standing, that one kind of goes without saying, but you cannot have any claims against your account and your billing must be up to date. And then last but not least on this page, services. You're going to want to add as many services as you can. Again, Google doesn't know all the time. 15%, does anyone have any clue how many searches in Google there are per second? Google, not just LSA, Google. 99,000 searches on Google a second. My brain just blows at that. It's just crazy to me. And of that, 15% are searches that they've never seen before. So let me see if I can think of one. How to wear a cat as a clog. That might be a search they've never seen before. I doubt it because people are weird as heck, but there are 15% of new searches every single second, right? Every time there's a search, 15% of them Google's never seen before. So they don't know necessarily the intent of every single one of those searches. So again, when they don't know, they're going to give it to whoever's got the most turned on. But you don't want to turn something on you don't do. If you don't clean vents, don't turn on clean vents in HVAC. I get it. So big thing there is just to make sure you do as much as you can and you're comfortable with. So I'm going to give you guys a quick rule of 5 here, and then we're going to get back into this account here and show you a little bit more. But respond, like I said, it's the number one thing. Respond to all phone leads, message leads, text leads. Respond to all of them. Review your response rate at least once a week. If you do not have an agency or a view that lets you see them, you can connect, and there's a lot of people just let you connect to their accounts. You can connect to our MCC and we can give you the report once a week. We don't care. We don't pay us to do that. It's a simple thing, but it is so important. And everybody thinks they respond to 100% and they don't. Understanding what Google thinks you're doing is what's important. Review the reports once a week. I like looking at my reports to make sure I'm getting quality leads, make sure the leads are the way I want to see them. Review your bids and budgets. I recommend this one once a month because things change and you're going to want to make sure they change. You're going to want to make sure that if Google puts something new in there, you're looking at it, that you're adjusting accordingly. If you're seeing that you're getting close to that cap, make it a little bit more. Again, it just has to be realistic for your market. And we're going to go ahead and hand this out. I see some folks that there, so you have it. Monthly, you're going to want to look at your images. So this is new. I'm going to pull this a little bit larger so you guys can see it. Just recently, and you'll see it here in my hot takes here in a minute, Google has made an update on how they want to see the photos. And you'll actually, if you go in here now and you look, you'll see a policy manager now on your accounts. It's been there for a while, but they're starting to flag certain photos. So we'll go over that. You're going to want to make sure your photos are correct. And it's crazy, you guys, what they're flagging. Crazy, like nuts to me. Attributes, bio updates, new features, new categories. You guys, this is probably one of the biggest things I think people don't do. Go into your account once a month and look at your attributes and your bio. Let me show you that for a second because so many accounts, their BBBs disconnected. So you'll go into here. Let me just show you guys what I did. I'm under profile and budget. At the very top, there's this little pencil here to the right. You're gonna wanna click on that. Click on business bio. Make sure you have your 6 of 6 selected because those are things that help with keyword ranking, believe it or not, in the account. And then scroll all the way down here and make sure, now you can't do this yourself. Google has to do this, right? They have to be verified by Google. But if you do not see your BBB connected, oh my gosh, send in a ticket, go to support, go to help, call us, we'll help you get that BBB connected. I see that all of the time as one of the biggest ones. And randomly a few months ago, Google disconnected a bunch of them. I don't know if something happened or whatever, but so it's something you want to check because accidents happen, right? Not just on our side, but on Google's side, and they disconnected. So you might want to go in there right now and check to make sure your BBB is still connected. And if it's not, put a ticket in right away. Also, new features. So I'm going to scroll down here. This is one of my favorite things. Google just sneaks this in. I want to be Google. If you come in here and search for industries, you'll see now all of those 100+ industries in here. And they're updating these all of the time. Now, don't click one if you don't have a license to do it, right? Like I'm not a litigation attorney. I'm not going to add that. I'm not a locksmith. I'm not going to add that. But if you have a license to do some of these things, you can add them, and they are adding new ones. Let's see if Drain. So Drain Expert is in here now. Now, you can add it to your account, but there's no place to add the license, so it probably won't launch. But I'm a huge advocate of getting ahead of it. Add the Drain Expert. All you do is click on that. This client's not drained, so I'm not going to do it. But all you do is click on that, and then it'll prop you through all the steps you need to take. But you guys, they're adding them. I mean, I get an update probably once a month with new industries they're adding, and it's crazy. And very home services related. User audit access. This is one that really doesn't have anything to do with ranking. I just recommend everyone do this because I've seen really bad things happen. Go in and audit who has access to the account, right? Make sure you don't have old vendors in there, old employees. We had a customer in California whose GM had access. They let the GM go. The general manager left. He got mad at them. About 2 weeks later, went in and closed down the account. It took us probably 3 weeks to get that account back. We were able to do so, but I would not count on that. I don't know that you can always get them back. We were just very lucky that we had lots of documentation and screenshots to show, and that show he was a disgruntled employee. So we were able to get that back, but make sure you're auditing it. No one should have access to this if you don't want to have access, because they can mess with a lot of things. So make sure you're auditing your access. Billing information, just checking that. License and insurance. This is another one that you'll want to check on a regular basis. You're going to go in here and you're just going to go to business verification. The reason I suggest that is because sometimes Google will get notification that a licensing requirement has changed in a certain area. We saw this happen in New York, like a couple months ago. I have no sense of time. I'm not very good at it, but a couple months ago. And so they automatically just disconnected everybody's license, and you had to go back in and re-verify it. But they didn't tell anyone. So you should be checking this at least once a month. Please note that on your proof of insurance, they do generally now give you a notice about 30 days before it's going to expire, but you do not want to go up to that expiration moment. I know this one's a really tricky one because a lot of us don't renew our insurance until the very end because of expenses, but you're going to want to make sure you're Johnny on the spot and making sure, because that can really affect the performance on the account. Any questions on that? Awesome. Confirmation connection to GBP profile. This one hurts my soul. A lot of times Google will, just for no reason, the connections will come apart. So all of a sudden you'll go from 385 reviews to 2 reviews, and they're just the verified reviews. That can break from time to time. So you just want to make sure that you're seeing the total amount of reviews that you know at least closely matches to your Google business profile. And then location updates. Go in there, play with it quite a bit. Lead type settings. This is going to be really important as we get into the hot takes here in a second. Lead disposition, more news coming. It's not a ranking factor at any stretch of the imagination, but we'll skip that one for now. Here's why. Hot off the presses. Lead disputes, the ability to dispute a lead, is deprecating. It is going away. It is ending in July, which is what, a week away? It's ending, I think, mid or late July, so you have a couple of weeks yet, but they did formally announce that leads, the ability to go in and dispute a lead, is going to be a feature they're getting rid of. So if you're currently doing that now, just get in there, get the rest of them done, but know that that's going away. I thought there'd be a lot of questions on that one. We'll keep moving. They are changing it a little bit though, and they're going to automatically do it. So what they're using is they're using their own AI to try and determine if something was really a lead or not. If it is a lead, obviously they'll charge you. If they determine it's not a lead, they won't charge you. But they are changing what they consider to be not a lead. And one of those changes is if it's outside area or outside trade, they are no longer saying it is not a lead. And what I mean by that is, it's like I told you I'm in a Dyna. If I had a Dyna on and it hit Richfield across the street here, they might assume that that's good. Ideally, their thought is they're going to get better and better. Obviously, I think Google's smart enough, you guys, to not count. Again, I'm in the Twin Cities metro area. North of us is Duluth, about 4 hours. I don't think they're going to charge me for a Duluth lead that calls in, right? But anything kind of close by, they are going to start charging for. They're not going to say that qualifies for a lead dispute and trades. My comment back to them was, I said, what if someone's calling about a swamp cooler? None of our people fix swamp. No one fixes swamp coolers, right? Or window units. They said, no, we're going to get smart enough to know that that's not a lead. My follow-up question to local service ads was, traditionally in the past, we have seen that when people say on the call, oh, I'm sorry, that's an area we don't service, or, oh, I'm sorry, that's a trade we do not do, and use those very clear words for the AI to pick up on, those disputes were automatic. They could not confirm or deny that that was going to continue. So to me, I would make sure I'm still doing that. So I cannot confirm or deny that that is the case, but I can tell you they've got AI listening to these calls. If you use that kind of language, I think it's telling the AI that is not a service you guys do. Call rating is going to be introduced, however. So you cannot dispute a call anymore, coming very soon, but you can rate a call. You can say it was a good call or a bad call. And they are toying with the idea of giving you a credit for doing so to try and help them improve their AI and their large language learning models. So if you rank the call good or bad, they are probably going to give you a incentive to do so, very small incentive, but also it's going to help them get better and better. So if you do have one of those calls that's like is your refrigerator running? No, you better catch it, whatever. That's a dumb one, old school high school joke when I was a kid. I don't know if for anyone who hasn't met me, I do identify as a 13-year-old boy with my humor. But if you get one of those, make sure you rate that call not a good call, just to help them learn and get better at it. LSAs will be appearing in more places. It just came out as a notice, but they've been doing it for several months now. LSA is appearing in the map pack. So you'll actually see a LSA campaign in the map pack. What I haven't seen yet is LSA and ads in the map pack. I'm really hoping they don't do that because it's going to push the organics pretty much off the page. So most people know you get the 3 maps. And then when you log in, you can see up to 5 kind of spots on the map pack. Well, if 2 of them are LSA and 1's ads, you're only gonna have 2 spots left for organic, and they're gonna be so low. I haven't seen them do both yet, but they are pushing LSA now nationally into the map pack. There are more lead types coming. So we are currently testing a couple of new lead types I'm really excited about with Google. We're beta testing for a couple of accounts, some new lead types. So make sure you're coming back and looking. As those lead types are introduced and as they go out to more and more locations, they are, what Google says is they want to meet the customer is. Where is the best chance of delivering this ad to someone who's going to actually make the customer happy? The more lead types you have on, the more likely you are to meet the customer they're at and make them happy. And the picture notification, this is brand new, about a month old. You might have already seen it in your account. Google is a little tired of people putting their phone numbers in the pictures and trying to circumvent Google. So the way LSA works is the phone number or the email or the message lead. They track all of that. So they are removing photo or flagging photos in your account that have your phone number on it. And the problem is every friggin' trade truck I've ever seen pretty much has the phone number on the truck. So a lot of the trucks are getting scooped up in these flagged photos on the account. I did confirm with LSA that leaving a flagged photo on is not going to negatively affect the account yet. And I did share with them that that makes sense for lawyers and things like that. But my gosh, you guys, every truck, it has a whole section to upload your trucks in it. And most trucks have phone numbers on it. So hopefully they'll do something about that before it becomes something they're going to try and enforce with ranking penalties. Go through it though and look if there's a picture or 2 in there that you want to remove them. I will tell you they also really do not like the advertisements that people have been putting in there. I was doing them too, so I'm not picking on anyone. It was working for a while. But if you have ads in there, you'll probably see that picture flagged as well. They also want to make sure that you have at least 4 pictures. And I always tell people, make sure you have at least 4 unflagged photos in the account. This is just their way of verifying that you're really a tradesperson. Just like when your GBP goes down, they ask you to send in certain photos. Those are the photos they want to see. Any questions on that so far? And this one's just for my PEs and groups that are on the call. But if you have more than 10 accounts with Google Local Service Ads, and the hiring and firing are centralized, you can actually now apply to get bulk verification and bulk background checks, where they'll use your background check process. So if you have more than 10 locations and the background checks are being done through a corporate office, you can apply to a form with Google. They do a little background check, and then you no longer have to go through the background check process. They use your background check. That can make that speed to market so much faster as you acquire, open new locations, all those fun things. Any questions about the hot off the presses? I am shooketh. I thought more people would have questions about lead disputes, but apparently we do not. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of myth busting then. Everything I'm going to show you here, I have verified in writing. Should anybody want to see it or shoot me an email afterwards, I will send you the stuff in writing from Google. So a lot of people talk about, oh, use the CRM, mark stuff is booked. The CRM, by the way, is this little tool here. So when I'm in here, this is what Google refers to as their CRM. Whether you mark something booked, whether you mark something archived, whether you listen to calls in this system or not, has absolutely 0 impact on your ranking. Zilch. 0. We hear this all the time. People think you need to use it. I have verified this in writing as recently as 2 weeks ago because I was preparing for this. I have verified it in writing multiple times. It has 0 impact on the tool and your ranking. Should I prioritize Google LSA verified reviews or my GBP reviews? From the LSA people's mouths themselves, prioritize your Google business reviews. Do not worry about your verified reviews in LSA. Hint, do not worry about your verified reviews in LSA. Do not worry about them. Read into that. But they will say themselves, look at the Google Business Profile. Google Business Profile reviews push to your LSA. Your LSI verified reviews do not push to Google Business Profile. And there's been some shenanigans recently within the LSA verified reviews that have been going on that they're aware of. So focus on your GBP reviews. Another myth I hear all the time is I can only have one account. No, you can have multiple accounts. If you're a multi-trade shop, highly recommend that you break out by trade because it gives you some really amazing things. If you go in here and you look at your reports now, you can see your impression share. That is so key. So you can find out information, and hopefully Google's fed the gerbils today. They did. Let's see here. When we started working with him, you guys saw that 3. When we started working with him, this is another account that had 3 leads. The first month after we did these things, they got 22 leads. The second month, which is June, I think they already have 39. So making these changes can make a huge difference. So when we started working with him, he had 3 whole leads. Last month, he had 22 leads. And this month, he's already had 40 leads, just making these changes. Cannot recommend them strongly enough. But he's also at a 14% impression share now. So you can see what his impression share is. If you have all your trades combined, so if you're in HVAC, electrical, plumbing, if you're garage door, siding, and pools, if you're any of those kind of things. Hi, Ryan, by the way, I see you turn your camera on. Hi. If you have all of those things combined into one account, you won't be able to see your impression share by trade. So I don't realize, is my lift because it just got hot? Or I'm roofing and it rained? Or is my lift because I'm getting more and my account's doing better? So this absolute top impression share number on the right here, I'm pointing at it like you guys can see my screen with me pointing at it. You can't. But that absolute top impression share number is something I track very, very closely. On a search engine results page now, so you click, it's got the 2. It now opens to 10 or 8 or 10, I can't remember. When you click on that, you can see a maximum of 20 on what they call the immersive page. So, and that's what's counting here. So if all things were equal, that means I should be at 5%. So anything above that is really kind of a nice thing. Depending on your size and your business, you want to see that be higher. So this account's got 14%. He's got a kind of a tighter market that he's in. He's just AC and heating, but AC is in Austin. And so getting 14.36% for his shop is excellent. But I do recommend breaking those apart. What you cannot do is you cannot have, and a lot of people do this, they open like 19 GBPs and they open like 19 LSAs and they're all stumbling all over each other. That will get you in trouble with local service ads. That will get you in trouble with GBP as well. I cannot have an LSA account unless I have an ads account. That's one I hear all the time as a myth. And the other is my LSA and ads work together. So I do different things to try. They don't work together. They're actually on 2 totally different platforms. You can see LSA now inside ads.google.com. I don't recommend it because it's weird stuff that's in there. But they do not work together. They're 2 different divisions inside Google. And you do not need to have an ads account to have LSA. As a matter of fact, a lot of people I work with, some of the smaller shops, they'll come to me and say, well, can you do my ads? And I said, no, do LSA first. Your GB, if you're a smaller shop, your Google Business Profile and your LSA should be the 2 things you focus on. And with his little handouts, with some of these myth bustings, and with some of the stuff that's coming, you guys, I cannot recommend enough making sure your LSA account's in good working order. Any questions on that? Well, you guys are either all asleep at this point, or I guess you're on the East Coast, you're already hitting happy hour.
All right, I get it.
Sure, Ryan, what's up?
We're over there where it's top impression rate that's 14%. Ours is 61%. And that's just because we probably don't have as many searches as that market, correct?
Yep. So if you look at your ad impressions and your absolute, you can kind of figure out what the ad impressions were for the services you have on in your area where they're showing.
Can you say that again?
Yep. So here they've got 14.36.
Yeah.
With 7,413 impressions. So he's shown 7,413 times. That equates to 14.36%. So you can kind of back into what the actual total impressions were in that market and what your share was. I can't do math. If I have to count past 10, I got to take my shoes off, and nobody wants that. But, you know, there's a way to just times this by this and figure out how the actual impressions were. And that's for the trades you have turned on in the
Oh,
area.
you're saying that's the total impressions that
Yep.
there would have been in the market. Okay.
Yes, sir. You got it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And then I think it's so it's 14% considered low because it's a saturated market. You know, I don't think so, Paige. I don't personally consider 14% low because you're getting more than your fair share. And it's a smaller business. And they have smaller reviews. I mean, Google's using some logic for a lot of that. I don't consider if this was ads, people are like, oh my God, 14%. But he's got all of Austin, which is a huge market area. He's HVAC, which is, to your point, is kind of saturated. I think he's getting his fair share and then some at 14% because 20 places show on that immersive page. So if everything was equal and there was only 20 businesses, it'd be 5%. Austin's got a lot of saturation, to your point. So it probably is closer to 50. So I don't think 14% is low at all. Personally, I'm very happy with that for him. I don't know if that was a good answer or not. And then Corey asked, how important are GBP reviews? Is this more important than responsive rate? For a new location just opened, only has a few reviews. This will impact impression share. So a couple questions in there. GBP reviews are the most important. Responsive rate, I think, has the greatest impact. Your reviews is very important too with the rating. But Google doesn't necessarily look at the volume as much. It does. It is a ranking factor, but they're really looking at frequency, the rating, and then the actual review. So if you get a standard frequency, what they don't want to see is with a new business is 900 leads pop in there all at once. They'll know they're not legit. They want to make sure they're from your area. They know that we're service area businesses. They expect to see those leads coming from your service area. So they're looking at that. There is a thing called on GBP, and I am a local, what do you call local guides? Those local guides reviews are ranked higher in Google's mind than a standard review. So if you're not a local guide, you guys, you get it by just leaving reviews for other companies, become a local guide. So as a new company, you are going to fight that uphill battle a little bit, but TrustPoint, who I was showing you at the very beginning, who had over 100 electrical leads on LSA, only has 91 reviews. But he's got a solid frequency because he's relatively new. Great customers leaving reviews in his local area, and he's got a 5.0. And his responsive rate's really high. So responsive, they won't tell us how they put the algorithm, but in my experience, responsive rate's one of the most important. Reviews second, radius third. Hopefully that answered that question. Okay, and then going back to Paige. Okay, we're sitting around the same as him in Richmond, Virginia. So just comparing, oh, perfect, makes sense. Great. Yeah, I think 14% is awesome. I mean, obviously the more the merrier. I always tell people we can fill their boards with LSA. That's all I'd ever do. For anyone who doesn't know, if Ryan shifted just slightly, he can open his door, and he does it in the winter to tease me because it's always hot and sunny and beautiful there, and it snows here. So thanks for that, Ryan.
Kind of warm today. So
Good. I hope you're sweating.
So I was on the treadmill, not now.
Oh. Any other questions or concerns, you guys? We are coming up on time. I want to be sensitive to everyone's time, and I really do appreciate it. We are going to send out some updates. I will tell you guys, the leads deprecating is new. There's some more new things coming out. There's some new features coming out for how to respond to leads. That'll be coming out in the next few months. There's some big updates coming for the reviews coming out soon. So just check into the account once a month. And if nothing else, bookmark that support.google.com/local services. You'll see a lot of information there yourself, kind of self-serve. And then follow us on our social media stuff. We post about this stuff all the time when we're allowed to. So we get a lot of the information ahead of time, and then we're allowed to post at certain times. We post all the time that these things are coming out. So you can follow us here, self-serve on support. Again, that's support.google.com. Guys, I can't stress enough because it has everything in it, and it posts announcements in it. But also follow us on social media, and we can help you as well. Guys, I really, truly appreciate your time. I know the one thing that contractors have that's the most valuable is their time. So I appreciate everybody spending their time with us. Thank you guys very, very much. Bye.
Is it possible to get 90% of the impressions or the share or whatever? Yeah, like you're at 60.
I've seen 60. I've never seen 90 on the absolute. That top impression share rate is almost always at 100. It's actually designed that way. It's not the best thing ever. But I don't think I've ever seen 90. And we have some accounts, Ryan, spending $80,000 to $90,000 a month in LSA.
Yeah.
And they don't have 90.
We're at a little under $1,000 right now.
Mm.
At 60 some, so.
And that just kind of tells, Google looks at the opportunity in the market too. So if there's not a huge opportunity, they're probably not pushing painting. That's why I shot you that note the other day about like, I was impressed they're starting to pay more attention to it.
Yeah. This is my favorite daughter, Delaney.
Hello.
Hi. Delaney, your dad gives me a hard time every single time I talk to him.
That's not surprising.
Yeah, I can see the shock on your face. So. But I'm a big fan, so. Well, I appreciate it, Ryan. You guys have a good one. Nice to meet you, Delaney.
Thank you, guys.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.